Get ready!
In 1990, the Bitmap brothers, who weren't actually related at all, released their follow-up to Speedball, Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe. According to the game's story, the first Speedball League, founded in 2095, fails due to the violence and corruption. As the organisation gives place to anarchy, the game is forced underground. But 5 years later, in an attempt to regain public interest, Speedball 2 is born. Speedball 2 makes several changes over the original Speedball. Teams have 9 players on the court rather than 5, and targets on the floors and walls can be hit to receive bonus points. The number of points that a team receives for scoring a goal starts at 10 but can be increased to 15 or 20 via the use of score multipliers located on the walls of the pitch. The same number of points for scoring a goal is given for injuring a player from the opposing team. When a player is injured, he is replaced by one of 3 substitutes. If all 3 substitutes are injured, the injured player will be forced to return to the game and play on in spite of his injuries. There are 5 game modes: Knockout Cup, League, Practice and Multiplayer. Each game lasts for 180 seconds. In this day and age, the way the game plays does feel a little twitchy, and the automatic player selection AI can be a little poor at times, choosing a different player than the one you wanted to choose. But back in the day, this was quite a solid playing game. The first system Speedball 2 was ported to was the Amiga. Now traditionally, ST games ported to the Amiga turn out to be crap, and all the Amiga fanboys piss their pants with anger when this is pointed out. Well, today those pants will be crisp and dry, because Speedball 2 on the Amiga is vastly superior to the Atari ST original. In fact, this is how I first was introduced to the game. Yep, back in the day, my friend and I would play this for hours on his Amiga. This version features higher defined graphics, much better audio with loads of speech samples, and smoother scrolling for the most part. Playability wise, it's the same, but that's not really an issue.
Replay! Get ready! Get ready!
Speedball 2 on the CD32 is basically the Amiga game, but now with a few colour enhancements and CD soundtrack. While the menus look gaudy, the actual in-game graphics are rather nice in my opinion. I like the gold coloured ball and the highlights on the players. Sadly, the audio seems to be mixed poorly. The ambient sound seems to cover up the game effects. Next, let's take a look at the Acorn Archenemies port. As we know, the Archenemies was a very powerful system. It could outdo most Western computers of the time with its RISC-based CPU. Ports to this system were often very well made, as Speedball 2 is no exception. This is the Amiga game with a few more details here and there. A very good port indeed.
Get ready.
The DOS port is what you'd expect from a PC port of the time. Pretty much a copy of the Amiga game, but missing much of the audio. The game plays well enough and also looks good, but there isn't anything special about this port besides that funky version of the main title theme.
Replay. Get ready.
So far, all the ports have been pretty much the same as the Atari ST original, but this is where things get interesting. The Mega Drive port does look worse due to the resolution it runs at, but what it loses in detail it makes up for in playability. Speedball 2 on the Mega Drive is really fast and fluid. The game is so much more playable than any other version we've seen. Everything feels slick, plus the option to have music playing in the background also adds to the excitement. It's just a shame that a lot of the speech is missing, but what is here sounds pretty good. With the Sega Master System being very popular in Europe, it's no surprise to see many European computer games ported to it. Sadly, with games like Speedball 2, it does suffer in the colour department. However, the core gameplay is still here, if not a little slow compared to the Mega Drive version. Now if you thought having Speedball 2 on the Master System was odd, then check out this official Commodore 64 release. This is possibly the most bare bones port yet. It doesn't even feature a title screen. There's no in-game images of players when a goal is scored either, or any music. But that's fine because the actual gameplay is ported faithfully to the Commodore 64. It's easily just as fast as the Mega Drive version. Unfortunately, it shares the player select AI with the Atari and Amiga versions, meaning it can be a little dumb at times. Following on from the Commodore 64, we have the Game Boy version. This comes to us from Spidersoft, a company that ported a few computer games to Nintendo's consoles. There's not too much to say about this one besides it being a reasonable effort. As you can see, it does play slower than the other versions, and it is a little tricky to see the ball on a real Game Boy, but overall, it's a pretty competent port. And let's finish up with the really crappy Game Boy Advance port developed by Crawfish Interactive. Now this port seems to be based upon the Amiga CD32 version. It shares the same dumb AI and bright color changes. Stupidly though, the game has been made in such a way that everything is zoomed in, making the playing area feel cramped. This makes the game more difficult than it needs to be. However, the less than smooth scrolling makes things even worse. Yep, this is a pretty shoddy port of Speedball 2. And let's take a look at all those versions of Speedball 2 running side by side.
Get ready!